February 17th is circled on Lana Rogers' calendar in red, and she rarely does that. After 30 years of tracking celestial patterns, she's learned to distinguish between eclipses that merely impress and eclipses that genuinely alter trajectories. This one alters trajectories, yours included. The trigger effect begins before most people even know it's happening, and by the time the ring of fire fades from the sky, something in your life will already be different. Let's find out exactly why this eclipse stands alone historically. To understand why February 17th stands apart, you have to understand what makes an eclipse historically significant versus merely astronomically interesting. Most eclipses are fascinating to observe and relatively uneventful in their consequences. They come, they go, people take photographs, and life continues. But certain eclipses fall at intersection points, moments where multiple astronomical cycles, historical patterns, and astrological configurations converge simultaneously. These are the eclipses that historians later point back to as markers, before and after moments. The eclipse of February 17th, 2026, falls into that rare second category. It sits at a crossroads of cycles that haven't aligned this way in well over a century, and the last time they did, the world looked fundamentally different by the following decade. Lana Rogers has spent considerable time mapping this eclipse against historical precedents, comparing it to eclipses that preceded major shifts in how societies organize themselves, how people communicate and share information, how power distributes itself across populations. And the patterns she's finding are striking enough to give even skeptics pause. The 1918 eclipse preceded the reshaping of entire nations. The 1948 eclipse preceded the technological revolution that changed human civilization permanently. These eclipses didn't cause those shifts, but they marked and amplified turning points that were already building. They were cosmic punctuation marks, periods at the end of one sentence, capital letters beginning the next. And February 17th carries that same quality of punctuation. What makes an eclipse historically significant isn't just its astronomical rarity. It's the combination of rarity and timing. A rare eclipse during a stable, peaceful period barely registers, but a rare eclipse during a period of maximum instability, maximum collective questioning, maximum openness to change, that lands differently. And right now, humanity is in exactly that kind of period. Systems that held for generations are visibly straining. Assumptions that seemed permanent are crumbling. People everywhere are sensing that something fundamental is shifting. They just can't name what. And February 17th gives that nameless sensing a name. It crystallizes what's been formless, focuses what's been diffuse, and points with uncommon clarity at what comes next. History will look back at this date, and we're living in it right now. Lana Rogers reads the sky's warning. Lana Rogers doesn't use the word warning lightly. She's spent too many years watching people become paralyzed by fear-based astrology to use that language carelessly. But when she looks at what February 17th is carrying, she reaches for it anyway. Not to frighten, but because certain information requires a specific level of urgency to actually land. And the sky, she says, is being unusually direct about what it wants us to understand before this eclipse arrives. The configurations surrounding it speak to consequence, to the natural results of patterns that have been running unchecked. And the warning isn't terrible things are coming. The warning is what you've been ignoring is about to demand your attention. Her analysis begins with the eclipse's relationship to Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and consequence. Saturn forms a challenging angle to the eclipse point, which in astrological interpretation means the chickens are coming home to roost. Structures built without solid foundations face inspection. Choices that were deferred face deadlines. Things that were good enough for now get revealed as not good enough at all. This isn't cruel, it's honest, and it's the kind of honesty that most people actually need, even when they resist it. The structures in question aren't just political or economic, they're personal. The way you've structured your time, your priorities, your relationships, your relationship with your own truth, all of it goes under the lamp. But Lana balances every warning with what she calls the eclipse grace, because challenging aspects don't only bring difficulty, they also bring breakthroughs. The same pressure that cracks foundations also cracks ceilings. And for people who've been feeling limited, capped, unable to push past a certain ceiling in their personal growth or their external circumstances, the pressure of this eclipse could be exactly what's needed to break through. Saturn's challenge isn't only a test, it's a catapult. The tension it creates, if worked with consciously rather than resisted, becomes the exact force that launches you forward. The warning, ultimately, is also an invitation. Show up, do the work, face what you've been avoiding, because the eclipse is going to illuminate it regardless. Might as well be the one holding the light. Here's the thing about triggers. They don't create anything new. They activate what's already loaded. A gun without a bullet is just metal, but add the bullet, add the pressure, add the mechanism designed to release force, and suddenly, potential becomes kinetic. That's what this eclipse is doing to situations that have been building in your life for months, maybe years. There's something loaded in you right now, a decision that's been waiting, a truth that's been building pressure, a change that's been gathering force. And February 17th is the trigger mechanism, the thing that converts all that stored potential into actual movement. Not because the eclipse creates the movement, but because it releases what was already there, waiting to be released. Lana Rogers calls this the eclipse trigger effect, and she says it's the most underestimated aspect of eclipse astrology. People watch for the obvious effects, the dramatic announcements, the sudden endings, the public revelations. But the trigger effect is subtler and ultimately more important. It's the internal shift that happens before anything external changes. A conversation you finally decide to have. A limit you quietly but firmly decide you've reached. A clarity that arrives not as a thunderclap, but as a settled knowing. Something that was 60% decided becomes 100% decided. Something that was postponed indefinitely suddenly has a date. That internal crystallization, that's the trigger effect at work. And it happens in the days surrounding the eclipse, often before people even realize it's happening. What nobody's talking about openly is how disruptive the trigger effect can be, even when it's positive. Because when potential energy converts to kinetic energy, things move, and movement always disturbs what was still, the still pond of your life, the careful balance you've maintained between what you want and what you've accepted, between who you are and who you've been performing, between the life you're living and the life you actually want. That pond gets disrupted. Ripples spread from the center outward, touching every shore. And while eventually the disruption settles into a new kind of stillness, a more honest stillness, a more aligned stillness, the journey between here and there goes through turbulence. The trigger has already been set. By the time most people finish reading this, it's already beginning to fire. But what happens when that trigger fires in the most intimate areas of your life, your relationships, your sense of purpose, your deepest held identity? Ahead in this video, we'll explore exactly how this eclipse reshapes the ground beneath your most personal world, which signs carry the most seismic shift, and what genuinely waits on the other side of the disruption. Don't step away. Collective consciousness cracking wide open. There's a level at which eclipses work on the individual, and a level at which they work on humanity as a whole. And the February 17th eclipse is operating powerfully on both. The collective consciousness, that invisible field of shared beliefs, assumptions, fears, and possibilities that connects all human minds. It's been under enormous strain, divided, fractured, pulling in contradictory directions with increasing force. And there's a point at which a strained system either breaks under the pressure or cracks open. The difference is subtle but crucial. Breaking means collapse. Cracking open means expansion. A seed cracks open to become a tree. An egg cracks open to release life. And a collective consciousness that cracks open under sufficient pressure releases possibilities that were contained but couldn't emerge while the shell held. The shell of our collective consciousness right now is a set of shared stories that no longer reflect reality. Stories about who holds power and why, about what's possible and what's fixed, about what we owe each other and what we can demand. These stories were useful once. They provided structure, coordination, shared meaning. But like all stories, they have a lifespan. And the current stories, you can feel how tired they are, how they strain against the reality of what's actually happening, how they require more and more energy to maintain. The eclipse cracks those stories. It introduces light into places where those stories relied on darkness to survive. And when enough light enters, the stories dissolve. Not violently, not all at once, but irreversibly. And what people begin to see instead is each other, unmediated, unfiltered by the old stories. And that seeing changes everything. This cracking open of collective consciousness has very practical effects on daily life. Conversations that were impossible suddenly become possible. Things that couldn't be said out loud start getting said. Communities that were divided by manufactured narratives start to recognize their common ground. People who'd accepted powerlessness start questioning the acceptance. It won't look tidy. It won't look calm. The cracking open of anything is messy, even when it's necessary. And in the weeks following February 17th, the messiness will be visible. In public discourse, in personal relationships, in institutions straining against the pressure of a consciousness that's outgrowing them. Watch for the messiness without fear, because what's cracking open is a shell that was never meant to be permanent, and what's emerging from it is more alive than anything inside the shell could have been. Relationships facing their moment of truth. Relationships are the most personal place eclipses make their mark, and February 17th is particularly pointed in this area. Every relationship in your life has a foundation, an implicit agreement about what it's for, how it works, what each person owes the other. And most of those foundations have never been consciously examined. They form through habit, through circumstance, through the slow accumulation of compromises and adaptations that made the relationship function. Functional isn't the same as healthy. Functional isn't the same as nourishing. And functional isn't the same as true. The eclipse illuminates the gap between what your relationships actually are and what you've been telling yourself they are. And that gap, for most people, is wider than comfortable. The relationships most affected by this eclipse are those that have been operating on unspoken agreements that one or both people have quietly stopped honoring. Partnerships where roles have shifted, but the conversation about those shifts has been avoided. Friendships where one person has been doing all the reaching and the other has been passively receiving without reciprocating. Family dynamics where the same old patterns play out because no one wants to be the one who disrupts them. The eclipse doesn't create the problems in these relationships. The problems already existed. The eclipse just removes the comfortable fog that allowed everyone to pretend they didn't. And once the fog lifts, you're left with a choice. Have the conversation, or consciously choose to continue without it. But you can't unknow what the eclipse shows you. Lana Rogers is particularly emphatic about one thing here. Not every relationship that gets disrupted by this eclipse needs to end. Some need to transform. And transformation requires the very conversations the eclipse is forcing. The disruption isn't a verdict. It's a starting point. Some relationships will emerge from this eclipse stronger, more honest, more genuinely connected than they've been in years. Because finally, someone said the thing that needed to be said. Finally, the pretending stopped and the real relating began. Other relationships will end, and those endings, while painful, will be merciful, releasing both people to find connections that actually match who they've become. The moment of truth this eclipse brings isn't cruel. It's clarifying, and clarity, however confronting, is always an act of love. Career paths being permanently redirected now. Work and purpose get tangled together in confusing ways. We're taught that our career is our identity, that what we do defines who we are, that success in our field is validation of our worth as human beings. And most people carry that conditioning so deeply they're not even aware of it, until something forces a reckoning, until an eclipse in a position that challenges the structures of professional life asks, is what you're doing actually what you're for? Not in the grand cosmic sense necessarily, but in the practical daily sense. Do you feel alive in your work? Does it draw on what you're actually capable of? Does it allow you to grow? Or have you been slowly accommodating, accepting less, doing more, shrinking yourself to fit a role that was never cut to your actual dimensions? The permanent redirection happening now isn't necessarily about leaving your job, though for some, it will be. It's about a fundamental shift in your relationship to work, a growing inability to perform meaningless tasks with manufactured enthusiasm, a rising refusal to subordinate your genuine contribution to politics, optics, and hierarchy, a deepening awareness that the energy you've been spending to maintain a professional identity that doesn't actually fit you could be going towards something that does. And that awareness, once it arrives, doesn't leave. It sits with you through every meeting that goes nowhere, every task that diminishes you, every moment when you catch yourself doing something that has nothing to do with what you're actually here to do. It accumulates until something shifts. What makes this eclipse's redirection permanent is that it operates at the level of values, not just preference or circumstance. When your values shift, everything built on the old values becomes unstable, and the eclipse is clarifying values with unusual precision. What you're willing to trade your time for, what you're no longer willing to compromise, what you do even without external validation or financial reward. These aren't small questions. They're the foundation of vocation in its truest sense, the calling that underlies the career. And once you've heard the calling clearly, the noise of a career that doesn't align with it becomes deafening. The redirection is already underway. It began the moment you started feeling restless in work that used to feel fine. February 17th just turns up the volume until you can't not hear it. The inner earthquake before external change. Every major external change is preceded by an internal shift that most people don't notice until afterward. They look back and say, I knew something was coming, I just didn't know what. And that knowing, that's the inner earthquake. Small tremors before the main event. A growing discomfort that doesn't have a clear source. An irritability, a restlessness, a sense that your skin doesn't quite fit. Dreams that are more vivid than usual. An inexplicable need to be alone, to be quiet, to have space you can't quite explain to the people around you. These aren't symptoms of something wrong. They're symptoms of something reorganizing. Your interior architecture is shifting to accommodate what's about to emerge, and the discomfort is just the friction of that shift. The inner earthquake happens in layers. First, beliefs shift. Things you accepted without question start feeling questionable. Assumptions you lived inside start feeling like constructs you chose rather than truths you discovered. Then, after beliefs shift, emotions reorganize. Old grief surfaces that you thought resolved. Old anger rises that you thought was processed. Old longing emerges that you thought you'd buried successfully. And this can feel regressive, like going backward, like undoing work you thought was done. But what's actually happening is completion. The emotions that surface now aren't returning to haunt you. They're returning to be finished, to receive the acknowledgement and release they never got. And their surfacing is evidence that you're strong enough now to finally let them go. Which signs carry the heaviest shift? The eclipse of February 17th lands in Aquarius, and its effects radiate outward to affect the entire zodiac, but not equally. Some signs are positioned to catch the full force of this transit. Others feel it more obliquely, and understanding which signs carry the heaviest shift helps you interpret what you're experiencing without confusing the eclipse's work for personal failure or random misfortune. The first sign to watch is Aquarius itself, because this eclipse is happening in your territory. Your identity, your sense of direction, your relationship to your own uniqueness is being fundamentally reconfigured. What you've defined yourself by, the roles, the labels, the affiliations, they're going under review. Not to erase them, but to evaluate whether they still fit the person you're becoming. Leo sits directly opposite the eclipse point, and opposition transits create a specific kind of tension. The tension of having to see yourself through the mirror of others clearly, often uncomfortably. Leo carries the archetype of the performer, the leader, the one who needs to be seen. And this eclipse asks, who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when the audience leaves? Who are you without the identity built on how others respond to you? These aren't cruel questions. They're the questions that lead to authentic self-possession rather than externally validated self-concept. And for Leos doing this work honestly, the shift is profound. Not a diminishment of identity, but an expansion of it, into something that doesn't require applause to feel real. Scorpio and Taurus, the other fixed signs, feel this eclipse through what astrologers call a square aspect, a challenge coming from an unexpected angle. For Scorpio, it arrives in the domain of shared resources, emotional depth, and the places where power and intimacy intersect. Old wounds around trust, betrayal, and vulnerability surface for final resolution. For Taurus, it lands in the territory of physical security, practical foundations, and the question of what you actually value when external pressures force clarity. Both fixed signs will initially resist. That's their nature. They hold what they've built. But resistance to this eclipse doesn't make it go away. It just makes the shift louder. And eventually, both signs will discover what every fixed sign eventually learns. The very act of letting go is what creates the stability they were trying to protect all along. Navigating disruption without losing yourself. The greatest challenge of eclipse season isn't surviving the disruption. It's staying coherent through it. Knowing who you are while everything around you is shifting. Maintaining your center while the periphery is in motion. And this is genuinely difficult. Because disruption has a way of pulling you into reactive states, fear-based decisions, impulsive choices, the desperate urge to grab onto anything that feels solid. And often, what feels most solid during disruption is also the most familiar. The old pattern, the known person, the past identity. And reaching for the familiar in the middle of transformation is like building on ground that's already been identified as unstable. The comfort is real, but it's temporary. And the cost of that comfort is the growth the disruption was trying to create. Navigating disruption without losing yourself starts with one practice that sounds simple but goes against every instinct. Pause. Before reacting, pause. Before deciding, pause. Before speaking the words that can't be unsaid, pause. Disruption creates urgency, and urgency creates the feeling that immediate response is required. But it rarely is. Most of the decisions that feel life or death urgent during eclipse disruption aren't actually time-sensitive. The relationship conversation can wait 3 days. The career decision can wait a week. The confrontation you've been building toward can wait until you're genuinely calm rather than productively furious. The pause isn't avoidance, it's intelligence, because what looks undeniable in the heat of eclipse energy often looks different, more nuanced, more workable, when viewed from slightly more settled ground. The new world waiting on other side. On the other side of February 17th, there's a version of your life that couldn't exist before this eclipse. Not because the eclipse creates it, but because the eclipse removes what was blocking it. The old structures that were holding too much space, the outdated relationships that were consuming energy needed elsewhere, the false certainties that were preventing you from seeking what's actually true, the identities that were too small to contain who you've been becoming. All of that gets cleared, challenged, or fundamentally rearranged by what passes through on February 17th. And what's left is room, real room, not empty room, but space that's finally available for what was always meant to be there. The new world waiting isn't a fantasy. It's not a perfect life where all problems have been solved and all desires have been granted. It's something more valuable than that. It's a life that actually fits. A life where the inside and the outside match, where how you present and who you actually are no longer require the enormous energy of maintenance that comes with significant misalignment. A life where your relationships are built on what's real rather than what's comfortable. Where your work draws on your actual capabilities rather than just the ones you've allowed to be seen. Where your daily choices reflect your genuine values rather than accumulated habits and inherited expectations. That alignment, that's the new world, and it's closer than it's ever been before. The shift that February 17th triggers isn't something that completes in a day, or even in a season. The initial tremor happens on and around the eclipse. The aftershocks continue for weeks. The rebuilding takes months, and the full flowering of what was seeded by this transit may not be visible for a year or more. But the direction sets now. The trajectory establishes itself during this window. And if you engage consciously, if you face what the eclipse illuminates, release what it asks you to release, and step toward what it makes possible, the direction set in February will be carrying you somewhere extraordinary by year's end. The new world isn't waiting passively, it's pulling. You can feel it already, that sense of something on the other side of what you've been willing to cross. February 17th is your invitation to cross it, and on the other side, something you've always suspected was possible, finally becoming real.